I was born in Charlotte, North Carolina, and spent most of my growing up there. Dad is a pastor, so we moved around a little bit and ended up in Columbia, South Carolina, where I went to high school and college, and went straight from University of South Carolina to Union Seminary. So served churches, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, ended up in Wilmington, North Carolina, where I have been for the last 15 years, and has been a great place to be and had a great ministry. I really did not decide to be a pastor until about halfway through seminary, which is a little late in the process, but I went to seminary really because my campus minister just said, Ernie, you need to go to seminary. So I went with some questions about that, but 2 years in, I did an internship at a church, and it was really serving in that church is when I first realized this is what I'm supposed to do and what I'm called to be. And so it was that experience in the church. Certainly my dad, being a pastor, had an influence on me. Growing up in the church had an influence, campus ministry, but I didn't really recognize it until I got out into the church, and has been a joy ever since. My wife, Elaine, and I met in college. So we met at the Presbyterian Student Center there at South Carolina and dated through college, through seminary. I finally convinced her to marry me my last year of seminary. So on my third try, she accepted my proposal and we got married. Have been together 27 years now. We have a daughter, Megan, who is 24, graduate of Meredith College in Raleigh, working at the YMCA there, and recently got engaged to be married. So we are doing wedding planning and excited about that. My son Richard is 21 and is a senior at East Carolina University, trying to figure out what happens next for him. My father is here in Greensboro. Mom and Dad retired here 17 years ago. We lost my mother to Alzheimer's in January, so Dad is here by himself, and he is very excited about me coming to be in Greensboro. I think what brings me the most joy as a pastor is the chance to connect with people, and particularly to help people connect with God. And that happens in a variety of ways. So as a pastor, one of the great privileges is just to get to come alongside people at various points in their life. Sometimes that happens in preaching and worship, sometimes it's at a baptism, sometimes a wedding, sometimes a funeral, but just kind of being with people in ways that help them experience God's presence and God's love, I think is what brings me the most joy as a pastor. I think what most excites me and energizes me about Westminster is the people would be one, and just getting, I have heard over and over again, whenever I ask people about Westminster, people say that is such a great church and those are such great people. I've experienced that with the search committee to start with, but I'm looking forward to meeting the other folks in the congregation. And then too, just being a part of the mission at Westminster. The other thing you hear about Westminster is there is this combination of an openness to trying new things and this commitment to be centered on Christ. And I think that combination of being open to new things but also being deeply centered in Christ just gives Westminster a chance to do some exciting things. So I'm looking forward to being a part of it. I've had a stronger sense of call to Westminster than I have sometimes experienced other places. And I think the two primary things I'm called to do there is one, to just love the people there and help them experience Christ's love for them, and then to provide leadership for the congregation. There are so many pieces in place at Westminster. Great staff, great people, great vision. And so I think my job will be to help figure out how we take all those pieces and go in the direction that God is calling us. And so excited about both of those, loving people and leading the congregation. I think when I start at Westminster, there are a couple of things I hope to do. I mean, the first is just to preach good sermons, and that's probably the most visible role. And I know worship is very important and central at Westminster, and so providing good worship leadership, preaching good sermons. I think second, just connecting with people. For me, ministry is very context specific, and so I need to know who the people are. I need to know the community. So making those kind of connections, I think will be important. And then just, I think taking the mission study, which is wonderful, and beginning to turn that into an action plan. I mean, my sense is that folks at Westminster are just eager to get started, and the mission study is there. So beginning to think, how do we turn that into an action plan will be a part of what I try and do fairly early on.